When we think about today's CIOs, they really have such a tremendous opportunity to make a huge impact on organizations, people, and their respective market and their communities. At the same time, the opportunity is affected by the level of change, the pace of how technology is advancing, and the evolving expectations of the CIO. This creates some level of change anxiety. If we start where the technology organization is expected to focus, where most of the energy is applied, CIOs continue to be responsible for delivering on efficient, reliable operations. This is really table stakes. This is how CIOs have built credibility for years as strong technologists and operators. At the same time, they're really having to focus on the adoption of disruptive technologies. They have to be able to demonstrate that they're staying ahead of the curve and acting as a business-savvy strategist and a catalyst for innovation by leading on applying new technologies and processes. How are they leading in areas of automation, AI, machine learning, and other aspects, and what that ultimately does to how they run their operations and contribute to the enterprise? With the adoption of new technologies, there often comes a growing expectation around services acceleration and optimization. The CIO organization should lead with new ways to deliver services and engage with the business. This leads to an agenda that needs to be grounded in how technology organizations organize, behave, and execute. All of these things, efficient operations, the adoption of disruptive technologies, as well as services optimization, has many CIOs looking at new and creative ways to nurture and grow talent, creating environments of continuous learning while also being intentional about new ways to acquire and retain talent from the market. At the same time, the technology agenda isn't enough for the CIO to worry about, because the C-suite adds a complex set of expectations on top of this agenda. The CEO, the CFO, the COO, the CHRO, the CMO, the Chief Strategy Officer, the Chief Digital Officer, and so on. Wow, how does the CIO keep up with all these stakeholders? Yet they look to the CIO to see how technology impacts how the enterprise is getting work done, how the enterprise competes, monetizes products and services, and ultimately how to engage with and serve customers. What are some of the additional items added to the CIO agenda by the C-suite? The C-suite typically expects the CIO to focus on delivering new products and services and advancing the ideation of new business models. That translates into a very big expectation around top-line revenue growth while also continuing to balance overall cost structure. The technology organization should lead in terms of driving and embedding more of the technology into how we create profitability and manage costs within the company. The business typically looks to the CIO to be innovative, to model the behavior around innovation. It's not to say innovation isn't an agenda item for the enterprise, but rather they look to CIOs to lead around exploration and experimentation. How do we begin to prototype critical aspects of who we want to become and deliver products and services in a different capacity? Many times when we talk to CIOs, the business also expects them to be strong advisors, and they expect them to lead on tech fluency. So while technology is genuinely becoming so pervasive that everybody within the enterprise is becoming fluent, the CIO has a huge opportunity, and the expectation is often set that they lead in terms of educating and growing the rest of the organization. So you've got the technology organization with its core priorities, you've got the C-suite and the business with a set of priorities, and you've also got the board and the market. You start to think about what the board is ultimately looking for, and this is really about shareholder value and enterprise value. And at the core level, it's also about managing the risk of the organization. When we think back over the last decade, security has always been a critical part of the conversation. But in today's conversation, it's really about protection of assets and the enterprise and shareholder value. And the market, well, the market's ultimately being dictated by customers. Customers are dictating a new set of expectations with the way that they engage with technology, requiring the CIO to really focus on delivering technology in a way that creates new alternatives for customer engagement platforms. So when we look across all the priorities in the CIO agenda, driven by core expectations and business expectations, this leads to a number of things around business transformation, where the technology organization and the business are working together. And then the board and the market add on top of that by driving a series of major market-related technology investments, ultimately working to continue to capture market and maintain a competitive advantage. So as we look at the landscape of all the different influences and priorities for the CIO, many of the conversations that we are having with CIOs are really focused on value, credibility, and influence. How do I approach this opportunity and agenda and continue to create value? How do I build credibility as a CIO, knowing all of these priorities and expectations? And how do I continue to maintain that credibility in a way that I can continue to influence the future of the organization? So as we reflect, because reflection is such a critical part of adopting and sustaining the right growth mindset, we begin to hone in on the opportunity. As every company becomes in some way a technology company, and as technology becomes so pervasive that it grows beyond one team's constant control, the role of the CIO will continue to expand to business strategist, to talent leader, and to innovative growth driver. There has never been a more exciting time to be a CIO, to lead the enterprise through rapid change. Now is the time to demonstrate courage. The courage to step up and lead the organization into the future.